Hey homeschoolers, I'm Melissa Webb, former full-time classroom teacher and homeschool mom turned full-time business CEO and encourager to homeschool families everywhere. I am determined and dedicated to helping you at the same time making sure that you're enjoying the family journey that you are on. So if you are looking for a place to be encouraged and inspired, you have found the perfect podcast. Homeschooling is a work of heart is truly the perfect place to start. So welcome. Let's jump in. Well, hello everyone. How are you? I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. It's Valentine's week. It's the week of love. And whether or not you will be celebrating Valentine's Day this week with your love bug, sweet pea, snuggle bunny, Boo Bear, I think that love is a topic and a practice that is relevant all year long. So I thought we would talk about love this week. Just made good sense to me. So I think it is very important that we all understand the power of a parent's love. We as human beings need healthy and supportive, sincere love. It's how we were made. And research overwhelmingly supports that those adults who, as a child, received love and affection, they formed the foundation for excellent mental health, academic achievement, happiness, and long-term success. Children who are consistently loved, three things are connected to this. One, they build resilience against life's challenges. Two, they develop stronger cognitive, emotional, and social skills. And three, they experience better overall life satisfaction and well-being. There's actually several things from research that I pulled for that right there. So it's important. Love is important. I have a question for you. How loving would you say your family is? I have met hundreds of families through the decades of teaching and life in general, and I have seen three standard love levels, I will call them, within all of these various families. These are families of my friends, families of my family members, family of students, all of them. And I'm curious which one you would say your family would fall into. Are you one, the highly expressive family? To me, the highly expressive family is the family whose family members frequently are expressing love. They're very verbal about it. They say, I love you multiple times a day. They're constantly doing thoughtful gestures, compliments. They're leaving little sticky notes everywhere. They are making it a priority to make quality time a part of their week. They are probably very physically affectionate. They hug and they kiss. They hold hands when they walk. They're also just extremely emotionally supportive. That's abundant. They talk about their feelings. They are highly expressive. Is that you? Is that your family? Would you say that's where you land? If not, maybe you fall into the second level, which I would call moderately expressive. So in a moderately expressive family, I would say these are family members who still say, I love you, but maybe not every day, certainly not every time you're walking into a room. It's maybe more during meaningful moments or maybe on a special occasion. They are also moderately affectionate. They have caring gestures, they're present, but they're maybe not as frequent. So like a hug here and there, kind of think of it like that. They also, I think, are super supportive, and love is shown more through actions than words. So they might help a child with a task, celebrate those milestones. It's just not as excessive as the first group. If that still doesn't sound like you, perhaps you fall into the final level, which I would call minimally expressive. So those verbal affirmations that an expressive family would constantly be doing, I love you, I love you, I love you. They text it, they speak it. Instead, in a minimally expressive family, those are reserved. You may never hear I love you or rarely hear those words, I love you. If you say it, it maybe feels awkward or uncomfortable. If you receive it, it may also feel awkward or uncomfortable. The physical affection, very infrequent, could even be non existent. We don't hug, it's very limited touch. And love is primarily implied. It's seen through responsibilities. These are still people who have love for their children. They just believe that it's implied in the fact that they have a warm bed to sleep in. They have a roof over their head. They have food on the table. You ask a parent or a child in that kind of minimally expressive family, you could hear them say, oh, of course I love my kids. I provide for them. That's how they should know that I love them. So I am not here to say that one is good or bad. They just are what they are. And I think awareness in all things is really important. And my question would then be, is the family love level that you're experiencing right now with your children making you feel happy and making them feel happy and loved? I'm also curious if the one you're experiencing right now is the same one that you grew up with. For many people, it's not. And I can use my own dad as an example here because my father's father, so my grandfather, never told my dad that he loved him. And he grew up in what he would call a minimally expressive family. They didn't hug a lot. They didn't say, I love you. And when I came along and said constantly, I love you, Dad. I love you, Dad. Daddy, I love you, very frequently, it made my dad uncomfortable. Now, he has worked on this. And today he tells me that he loves me almost every time we speak. And I think this is important to realize because if you grew up in one of the levels that you thought was not enough or maybe too much, you can adjust those levels. There are two times we're going to be in a parent-child relationship. In one of those, we have very little control. We are the child. But in the other one, we become the parent. And that is where we have the power. So this is good news. We can boost our levels if we want to. It's going to take intentionality. It's going to require practice. And if you don't know where to start, but you're like, I think this is something we need to work on, just know I've got you. I want to talk about Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages. Have you heard of this book? He wrote so many. First, it was just the 5 love languages. It was for adults. And then he came out with the 5 love languages for your teenagers or something. And then there's the 5 love languages for children. There's probably now even the 5 love languages for your dog. I'm not sure. It could be out there. You'll have to check. He also has quizzes to help you discover which of the 5 love languages. If you can't really figure it out by the book, you can take the quiz. I will link to one of his quizzes in the show notes. But the core idea behind the 5 love languages is that every person feels loved in unique ways, and we're not all the same. As a homeschooling parent, I think we have especially bountiful opportunities to fill our children's emotional wells daily by paying attention to the ways we are loving on them, because a parent's love is really powerful. And while I've done the quizzes, they're somewhat fun, kind of interesting. I like quizzes. Do you like quizzes? The thing is, I've learned more from experience than any quiz. And what life has taught me is that love is love, and I can appreciate any and all of the 5 love languages. But know your children, know your kiddos. For example, I have one child. Our middle son is not a fan of physical touch. He is just not a hugger. He doesn't like a lot of hugs. He'll tell you he loves you, no problem, and he'll hug. It's kind of that side hug. You kind of get one of those side hugs. Yeah, that's just who he is. Nothing wrong with that. It's just about being aware of that, respecting that. The goal isn't to change people, it's to meet them where they are. And know that through time, your love language can change. At one point, you may feel like it's gifts. I love getting gifts. I feel so loved when I get gifts. And later on, it could be acts of service. So it's worth revisiting. So even if you're like, oh, yeah, we've done that. I know what our love languages are. Do you? Are they still the same? It's worth thinking about. So let me go over the 5 love languages. If nothing else, it's a great review for you. I want you to think of one of your children as we go through these. And you can come back and you can think of your other kiddos too. But I recommend you think of one child right now, especially if it's a child that you really want to work with on this love experience. Is there one that stands out for you? All right. Love language number 1 is called words of affirmation. So that would include verbal encouragement, loving words that are spoken that could boost your child's self-esteem. This could be also written encouragement, like those little post-it note. It could be things such as saying, wow, you did a great job cleaning your room, putting your clothes away, finishing your math assignment. The key is to praise the behavior, not the person, not you're a good person because you did this, but you did a good job having done this. And by the way, there are a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists in the children's area of study that talk a lot about the do's and the don'ts when praising your children. I'll link to that as well, just so that if you're like, I want to know a little bit more about that, I will link an article. Not a problem. I can do that for you. But words of affirmation could be something that at the end of the day, your child really feels loved by you because of what you said or what you wrote. Okay. The second love language is quality time. So quality time, this includes when you would give your child undivided attention or one-on-one moments. Now, quality time can also be with the whole family. Some children do prefer that. They don't want to be one-on-one. They want to do something as a whole family. That's still considered quality time. But for a lot of children, quality time does mean the most when it's one-on-one. It could be reading together. It could be taking the dog for a walk together, just the two of you. It could be maybe for Valentine's Day, the two of you are going to bake chocolate chip cookies for the whole family, or you play a card game. It's interesting. When my husband was growing up, this was high school, he would come home and he was the first one home. His younger siblings wouldn't be home yet. And there would be like this 30 minutes of time before everybody else got home. And when he would come home, his mom, who was a stay-home mom, she would have a snack for him and she'd have the cards out. And she and my husband would play rummy. They would just play a couple games of rummy. And he remembers that to this day. And she would ask him about his day. And it was just a really special time for him. This could also be bedtime chats. Do you have a child who just loves when you get into bed and you read a story and then you guys just kind of talk for a little while? Our youngest loved that. Derek just loved bedtime chat time. And it was hard to kind of get away sometimes. Maybe it was his way of avoiding going to sleep, perhaps, but I know it filled his well. The third love language is acts of service. And sometimes families will get confused with this one because they're like, how should I be serving my child? Excuse me, my child's the child. Shouldn't my child be serving me? No, I don't think so. I think this is something that could be very mutual. It could be things like helping with tasks, maybe doing some things for them. The thing that's coming to mind right now is when Adam was little, I don't know, he was maybe 4 years old. He had this little stuffed bear that had been through the ringer. I'll just tell you that much. And it had ripped again on this one occasion and it needed some sewing. And he was so upset because he could put his little finger in the hole and the stuffing was coming out. And I was like, let's fix it. Come on, let's get to work. And I went, I just grabbed my little sewing kit, and I remember sitting on the couch together, just talking. And he's like, does it hurt him? Like, it was just so sweet. And I lovingly sewed up the ripped bear. You would have thought I hung the moon for Adam. Remember, Adam is not my physical touch kid, but that act of service, the fact that I just dropped everything and helped him with something that he couldn't do, meant the world to him. So what could you do to help your kids? Maybe there's a really tough assignment that they're working on. Sit with them a little more, practice a little longer. Maybe you've been telling your child to organize a messy room. Why not go in and work on it together? That's an act of service. It's when you're putting your time into something that matters to them. Maybe you've noticed that their air is low in a bike tire. And so you're like, come on, let's go fix up your bike tire. And you do it, show them how to do it. It's you doing something to help them. And let me tell you a big one. Attending their sports practices, their music practices, their dance practices, and actually paying attention, not just being their chauffeur to get them there, but afterwards talking to them about what you saw or how you could even help them practice. Any way that you could maybe make their day easier. Those would all be acts of services. The next two, I think, are pretty simple, easy to do. The fourth one is gifts, but they don't have to be expensive. I mean, you certainly can, right? We've got Valentine's Day right here. You could get a box of chocolate or something. But gifts never need to be expensive. They can just be thoughtful gestures. You could surprise your child, maybe a new set of markers, maybe a craft or art project. It could even be a small treat that you made and then you have for them after they completed a task. You could even create like a certificate of achievement. Canva's great for that. You can make some kind of a homemade reward, right? You could buy a cheap little trophy and then make your own little sign on it for what it's for. It doesn't have to be expensive and big. The goal is to be thoughtful when you hand it over. The final one is the physical touch, and it doesn't just have to be a big hug or smoochy kiss. A lot of kids don't like that, but it could be a high five. It could be a fist bump. It could be a hand on the shoulder or a pat on the back. Anything like that. And again, you know the kids who love that. You've got some kids who would take a hug every day, all day long, and others who are like, I'm fine. Now, which of these 5 stand out to you? I'm just going to recap them very quickly for you. There was words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, gifts, and physical touch. Do you feel stronger in giving some of those more than others? That's important to reflect upon. And which one resonates most with your children and with each child, because all children are different. I'm curious. I am so curious. I would love to know, how might you powerfully love on your kids and your family this weekend? I hope you have some ideas. I hope I've stirred something up in your brain. I encourage you to focus on one love language this next week or over the weekend. Intentionally fill up your child's emotional well. I think it's the greatest gift you can give. Love, it's the greatest of all. And please feel free to share your experience. If you take a picture of some loving thing that you guys did, I would love to know about it. If you put it out on the socials, please tag me with your love practice. It would certainly fill my well. Lots of love, everyone. Right on. Well, thanks so much for tuning in and listening this week. Hey, if this was something that you found valuable, don't forget you want to subscribe or follow so that every time a new episode is dropped, you'll be the first to know. And hey, before you go, if you are looking to get some of this academic writing under your belt and outsourced so that it's one less thing, freeing you up to enjoy more time with your family, hey, you're going to want to head over to writeonweb.com to see what kinds of resources and materials I have available for you. I will look forward to seeing you there, and I will look forward to seeing you here in our next episode. Right on.